safe space. We ain't never give a reason you should hide. Compile all your questions, we're taking the quest. Join Tarcia on this journey to discover the rest. Go.
To the Adoption Journey podcast. I am your host, Tarcia Smith, and thank you again for joining us on another journey. Before we dive in, let me remind you guys to go to Patreon and check out all things Tarcia. You'll get the podcast, the extreme hip hop classes, the plant-based recipes, just all things me. And without further ado, look, we international today, y'all, okay? We are international. Worldwide is what we are today. I have Miss Helen from the Adoption Diaries podcast in the building. Hey, Helen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to hear your story because I know that you're in Belgium, correct?
Yeah, I live in Belgium right now, but I actually come from the Netherlands. So I moved there.
Look, fam, she's not gonna be able to tell me nothing. I'm worldwide. Look, y'all not gonna be able to tell me nothing. Moving forward, this is it.
Exactly. So it's. I grew up in the Netherlands, but right now you're correct. Right now I am located in Belgium.
Okay, so let me start with my first two questions. Number one, are you a transracial adoptee?
I am.
Okay. So
yes.
So we'll start right there. Go ahead. Tell me.
Yeah, so I was adopted when I was 1.5.
Okay.
From Ethiopia. And I came into a family with my adopted mom, my adopted dad, and then they had two biological children already from themselves. So they already had two sons. So those are my two older adopted brothers.
Okay, and I have to ask, are they white?
They all are. They're all, as I said, I grew up in the Netherlands, so they are all white and all Dutch. And they all came together because my adopted brothers are quite older than me. Mm-hmm. So they all came together to pick me up, let's say, from Ethiopia. And yeah.
So do you know the answer as to why they went to Ethiopia to adopt?
I believe at the time from the Netherlands you could choose the countries that you kind of wanted to adopt from. Okay. And there are certain rules to each country, which has things as like my adopted parents had to be married to be able to adopt from Ethiopia, and those were different rules. I believe some also had that you weren't allowed to already have biological children. You know, there were certain criteria that you had to withhold from each different country.
Okay.
Then also my mom really had a love for Africa as a continent. And so she really wanted to adopt a child from Africa. And then I believe Ethiopia was just one of the countries which they were allowed to adopt from because of those criteria, and they fitted into that, and Ethiopia allowed them to adopt.
Okay, so walk me through, when you're adopted, you're a baby, but as you begin to grow up in this family, and is the community also predominantly white as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so as you're growing up and nobody looks like you, walk me through that. You're going to school, pre-K, what's your early memories of that?
Yeah. So whenever they adopted me, I still lived in a bigger city, not very big or diverse, but still quite okay, I would say, until I was around 7 to 8 year olds. And we moved with my mom. My parents already had divorced at that time, but my mom and her new partner moved to a village. And from that moment on, any diversity that I saw around me was kind of stripped away from me. And it was predominantly white, to the point that I believe I can literally count on my one finger, like probably two people that were my race.
So do you feel as a little kid, like are you questioning, like, why am I so dark, and why does
Yeah,
my hair look like this and it's not straight and then even probably even begin to desire to, like, I want the straight hair and the
absolutely.
blue eyes and the
Absolutely.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
really had a time. It's sometimes just to think about it, whereas like I was obsessed with wanting to have blonde, long hair.
Mm.
And I really, because that was the only thing that I saw. And I also felt such a divide between my peers at that moment
Mhm.
and myself. And I wasn't fully aware of my skin color either, because if everyone's around you is white and everyone around you looks like that, I I knew that I wasn't the same, because I just walked towards like all these hurdles that made me every time remind me of, oh, you're not able to straighten your hair like that. You're not able to
Who's
go
telling you
out
that?
without creaming your
Who
your skin, like things as that. I was every
who's
time I
telling
was kind of
who's telling you that? Who's saying these things to you?
not really saying it, but it's more of the experience.
Got you.
It's
Okay.
more of the experience itself as, oh, if I try to put a straighten iron on my hair, it's not actually going to do what I see around me.
Right.
So it's more of an experience that just every time kind of slapped me into reality that I was not the same as the girls around me, and I was not seen the same as everyone else around me.
That's why representation is key. Oh, it's so important. It's so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It took me a long time to actually get back to, first of all, realizing why I was having so many issues towards myself and so much self-hatred towards
I'm gonna
my
stop
skin
you right
color.
there. I'm gonna stop you right there. That's self-hatred. So how
Yes,
early does that start with you?
it started really early. And
Oof.
it's
And are your parents aware? Are your parents aware? You struggling? You having these internal struggles?
I think that right now I'm at a point with them that I am openly able to discuss some of these parts, but
Okay.
especially back then, I think it wasn't because they're not confronted with those things. I think they were very unaware that it could even be a thing, that moving to a place where there's no representation could actually do something to the way that I would view myself or my mental health and
Because let me
etc.
ask you this. Is it when people go outside of, like, such as what your adoptive parents did, and go completely not only outside of their race but outside of the country, and then they bring back this baby into this culture, are they not even considering any of that from your experience? Or do they think, when I bring this baby over here, we're going to, we have a clean slate and we can just start all over?
I think there was some sense of I need to put the effort in, but more within an internal way, in like in my own household. I feel like there were some dits and dats that were especially for me to be like, okay, she'll know that she's black and she'll know where she's actually from, and
Okay.
but the thought of that the external world would also have an influence on me,
Mm-hmm.
I think that that part was kind of forgotten in the process, that my environment would actually also be very important in the way that I grew up, and the people that would have surrounding me would also have an effect on my mental health and the way that I would view myself. I think the focus was more on, within this household, we'll make sure that she kind of knows where she is from, and we'll have some food implemented, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
But not thinking about the outside world is only going to see this beautiful little black girl and is
yeah,
going to think differently and treat you differently. You're not going to have the
exactly,
same experience that they're going to have
yeah,
just because you are adopted by them.
exactly.
So early on, this self hatred and this internal thing that you got going on, even though this is going on inside of you, are you having a good childhood? Is your experience okay? Even though you might have
Um,
not been, but you know.
I think a lot is realized way later. I
Mm,
think at that moment, I was relatively doing well to
Okay.
the point that I was functioning. I was able to do what I was supposed to do. I was able to go to school and get an education and join a sports club and do all those
Right.
things. But if I compare it to sometimes what I hear from other people or how you're kind of supposed to feel, I think in that sense, it wasn't a normal and happy childhood because I was struggling with so many things, but just was not able to communicate that or articulate that or even know what to do with the feelings that I was having.
So, okay, so we get through elementary and middle school. So, I want to ask about when you began to start wanting to date. What was that like
Yeah,
for you?
that's actually a really good question that I think that I had a very, very long journey in because I remember the first like 2 years that I was already like a bit interested in dating and interested in boys for my, and I didn't want to date anyone of my race. And I even remember writing down that there was this one guy in school, and I was kind of interested, but not really interested. And I wrote down that I didn't like black guys.
Mm.
And
Why?
reading
Why
back,
do you think that?
I
In that moment,
at
not
that
hindsight,
moment,
in that
in
moment, why do you
hindsight, at
think that?
that moment, and I think I was 13 something, for
Mm.
13, 14, so I was very young. And at that moment, I wrote that down and I actually read it back like not even that long ago. It was in a journal of mine that I like picked up again and like read through. And I remember exactly the guy that I was writing about. And I just see the self hatred that I had for myself at that moment
Mhm.
being reflected to the way that I viewed dating and the way I viewed wanting to be with someone or even finding someone attractive. I couldn't think that someone that looked like me could be attracted or attractive in any way because I viewed myself as extremely ugly and just not the ideal of what it should be.
Hold on. I gotta, I have to do this. I'm gonna put a pin in what you said because I'm going to give you your flowers right now. Girl, you are beautiful.
Oh,
And I hope
thank
you know
you.
that. And for
Thank
the family
you.
that's just listening to this, if y'all go to YouTube and look at the video and look at this girl, she is beautiful.
That's
And I'm
very
not just
sweet.
saying that. So I
That's
had to
very
just put a
sweet.
pin in that and give you your flowers, just in case you were still wondering.
Yeah, it's been
Period.
a journey, and right now I'm absolutely not at the point where I was back then. Like I do view myself as beautiful. I think black people are the most beautiful creatures, to be honest.
And we are
Um,
and is.
exactly. So there's such a, but reading that, I was so confronted with that that
Mm.
could even be something I was thinking. It almost made me sick of myself. Like I could have thought like that. The person that I am right now
Yeah, yeah.
is so far away from that.
Okay, but hold on, I'm gonna pull you back. I'm gonna pull you back. So when you begin to date and you date, the I assume at this point it's a white guy. What was that like for you? Did you experience any I don't know, maybe microaggressions
Hmm.
or yeah, tell me. Tell me about that.
I never really got into seriously dating someone outside of my race
Got you. Okay.
because I had a phase that I didn't want to date into my race, but every time that I was confronted with someone outside of my race,
Mm-hmm.
I did always have a very no tolerance attitude. Whereas if something, even the smallest, would give me the feeling that I was not accepted,
Mm.
let's say easy, I would back out.
Wow.
I would not
What
cross,
a
I would not let anyone get even. Also, I think because I was I could pinpoint it so directly to the things that I went through when I was younger that even the slightest red flags would already make me want to leave, because I knew which way it could go, because I grew up seeing that. I grew up
Seeing it.
feeling that way and hearing those things. So I was not allowing myself to experience that again in dating.
Okay, let me ask you this too, because you said early on that your adoptive parents divorced.
Yes.
So, and were you still having contact with both of your adoptive parents? And then did either one of them remarry? And were these new spouses okay with you?
My mom remarried. As far as he was accepted of me, I think so.
Okay.
There's I would not say that there was something that would make me think that he wasn't.
Gotcha. I only asked the question because your adoptive parents are the people that made the decision
Yes,
to go.
absolutely.
And so then you're bringing in a new person into the fold. Yeah. So that's
There
why
is,
I
yeah,
asked the question. Yeah. So I want to turn the corner because you're talking a lot about self-hate. You're tapping on that hard. When does it start? Because when you do that, it's got to come out some kind of way,
absolutely.
some form. So at what point does it start to seep out, and how?
I think whenever I entered high school, I chose a place that was more diverse. And I did that consciously at that age. I knew I wanted something that was not even in my village or not even close to that.
Oh wait,
I
hold
want
on. Because what do you mean you chose a place? You mean a
in
high?
the Netherlands,
Okay.
whenever you leave, I think we call it primary school,
Okay.
you can choose your high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have usually people go quite close to their hometown,
Mm-hmm.
just for convenience, of course. But because my close to hometown wasn't the place that I really wanted to be,
All right.
I made the choice to go a city further away. And so I could have a different environment and I could kind of have a fresh start to what I was used to when I was in primary school
Well,
within the
that's
village.
awesome that you had the opportunity
Yeah,
to choose
I
because
had a
it's not like
very
that here.
no, I believe it's not for a lot of places, and a lot of people also really don't make a conscious decision to actually choose your high school like that, because you're just kind of sent to one place.
Right.
But I
Depending for
was
the overall, I mean, there's different circumstances, but overall, at least, for here where I am, is based on where you live and you're going to go to the
exactly
closest high school. The end.
exactly, and then I got lucky enough to actually given the opportunity to choose, and everyone was kind of supporting that. So I chose a place a bit more further away, and I was confronted with a lot more diversity, different cultures, different races. Just everything kind of came together. And because of that, I also got confronted with the way that I thought of myself. And
Talk about
the
that.
way that if I look at myself in this way, do I automatically say that they're not beautiful either, or that they're this stereotype, or that they're this or that? And by the fact that I didn't want to think that way, because it wasn't true, I could look at my friends and be like, they're not this. And I also had this messed up view of what a black person was supposed to be from the
Oh.
movies and from what I was portrayed as. So I kind of had this idea of, am I even black because I'm not that stereotype? But now that I kind of want to be black because I kind of figured out that I am, strangely enough, I feel like I have to be that because that's the only thing that I've known, because that's the only thing that was portrayed to me. But by being in an environment that was where so many more people looked like me with
Mm-hmm.
different personalities and different this and that I kind of got the opportunity to explore myself and actually see what kind of person I was.
In high school. The fact
Yeah.
that you even had the wherewithal to do that in high school. You know what I was doing in high school?
Yeah.
Not that. My thought process, not that deep.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like that's high school for me was such a time to explore and to figure out who I was.
Are you having conversations with people?
No.
Oh, you're doing this all by yourself.
I absolutely didn't. That's something I think that happened way later, but this
Okay.
also, I was so ashamed of it. I was very ashamed of
Gotcha.
this process, and I was not able to articulate it. I was not able to explain that I was actually doing this at that time. At that time I was just, oh, I'm just a teenager trying new hairstyles, and this is my way of trying new
Gotcha.
hairstyles.
Gotcha.
While
And
actually it was so much deeper process of finding my identity. While for me it was the same as someone else coloring their hair.
and since you brought up the hairstyles, now that you're in high school,
Yeah.
what pictures do we need to go find of you from back?
Oh, they're horrible. I started high school, so my hair has always been very complicated for me. I hated it. I hated it to the point that I remember this one time I cried in the bathroom because I had to go to work with my natural hair. And the hairdresser had no time at that moment. And I had to go to work. And I worked in the supermarket in the village. And I couldn't go outside. I was like, I can't go outside like this. I look so ugly. But I started high school with just cornrows, and I did have a hairdresser at that time, which was an absolutely lovely lady that helped me with so much with my identity and being Black, and how to take care of my hair.
Hold on, wait. I gotta ask. I'm reverting. How was your mother taking care of your hair back in the day? What was she doing?
Just trying. But yeah,
'Cause
that's
I love your answer. She was trying. She was trying to
yeah,
figure it
that's
out. Because I'm
the
looking
thing
at your
that
hair. She didn't know what to do with that.
no, this is the yeah, no. She didn't.
Mm-mm.
And that's the thing, is that she was trying the best she could with what she had,
Right.
but it was not up to standards to what it should be. And it did a lot with my self hatred as well, because I never looked the best that I could, and I always felt like that my hair was something that was horrible, and it was hard to do, and it was so much time and work and effort, and it was just so hard and energy draining for everyone around me, and for her, for me, for whoever was helping, for people in my household that would be sitting in the same room as me crying because we didn't know how to comb my hair. So that always felt like a burden, like my hair was a burden. And then when I got my hairdresser, she kind of picked it up and then taught me little ways, and taught me how to comb it, and taught me how to actually wash it, and how to hydrate it, and etc. And I went to her onwards to always get my hair done. But
Did you
even
feel
then, I
better
hated
about
it.
your? Oh, you just answered my question.
Yeah. Even then, I was on a better journey, but I still hated it because I was just not used to it, and I was still viewing everyone with blonde long hair as being
Right.
desirable and beautiful, and that's how it was supposed to be. So the first few years of high school, I had my cornrows. I hated it, and then at some point I figured out what wigs were, and I didn't get a blonde wig. I never did that, but at least I could
How did
have
you
long
know?
black hair.
How did you hear the question in my head? Girl, did you go get a blonde wig? But you
Yeah.
didn't.
I didn't. I ended up always getting myself a black one, but at
Okay.
least I had long hair. But I would always walk into the store and actually wanting to get a blonde wig, but something just always stopped me to not do it. I'm very happy that I didn't go
I'm happy that you didn't do it
that
too.
route. But I did end up getting black weaves and wigs, and
Yeah.
at least I could have that feeling of being able to wave my hair. And
You know what's so crazy about that? Especially, if most Black girls grow up having that struggle. Now,
yeah,
I think this generation is going to be a little different because they're,
yeah,
with you're seeing it. Like
yeah,
my son is
exactly.
13, and in his life, he's seen me with my straight hair one time, and he was like, "Mama, that doesn't look right on you."
Yeah,
He
yeah,
legit said, you were supposed to have your natural curly hair because you're a black girl. That's what he
Exactly.
said to me. I was like, oh,
That's perfect.
I have, oh, I
Yeah.
was like, and then I thought about it. Oh, you've not seen me because I've been natural,
Yeah.
all his life since he can remember. So this generation might have a, different take on it, but I know my generation, I'm right there with you. We want
Yeah.
the straight, long hair, perm, the whole thing, the long hair. Oh, my
Exactly.
hair's not growing long enough. Oh, let me go get some weave and put it in it.
Exactly.
It's a
And
struggle.
it's such a struggle, and it feeds into that, because the moment that right now I have my standard, as when we're talking a bit about dating as well, that I want to have someone that loves my natural hair
Mm,
more than if I would have a wig or weave or braids even.
right,
But whenever you come to school, in this case at my age back then,
right.
but say now when I wear a weave and I would go to work or anywhere, and everyone's like, oh, it's so beautiful, oh, that looks amazing, it feeds into that idea. But if I walk with my hair like this and I go somewhere, no one's giving me a
And nobody
compliment.
says anything. Right. And you're like, well,
Well,
yeah,
this looks cute
this is
too.
cute. I don't know what's wrong
Yeah,
with y'all. This is cute.
exactly. So that feeds into the idea of, okay, so that must be better because everyone's
Right.
complimenting me, and I'm kind of seem more desirable because it's kind of more fits into that idea, then I'm going to continuously do that.
Jeez. That hair, we could talk all day about this hair.
Yeah.
But I want to turn the corner. I want to ask you this question. I want to revert back to your birth parents.
Hmm.
Have you met them?
No.
No.
So, as far as any knowledge on them,
Hmm.
there's nothing. So, there is no starting points except the place that I've been found, to whereas that's it.
Your verbiage. You said I've been found.
Yeah. So, I was left at a close to a police station in Ethiopia,
Mm,
in Addis Ababa, so the
all right.
capital.
Okay.
But there was nothing there.
Okay.
So
How old were you when you found out that piece of information?
I have always known. So my adopted parents have always been quite open to the story of me being found and me being adopted. There has been some information that I found out later, which kind of shooken up my world and my identity. But in general, they've always been very open to what happened, and that I have been adopted, and that
Mm.
which orphanage and where they found me and all that.
So, if you don't mind, what information did you find out later?
So this is when I was already a bit older. I was already older, so I was already 18, and I was able to request my adoption documents myself. And I knew that if my mom has them, but I knew that if I would ask for it, she would give it to me. But I was just in a place that I was like, I want to be able to not have to tell anyone, sit myself and see these documents. Not that I thought something was wrong with it, but it was
Yeah.
COVID at the time as well, and I was
Okay.
just I wanted to
So
figure
this is
things out
recent.
myself. This is not that long ago, no,
Okay.
absolutely not. And I got my documents and I went through it, and there was just one part that I was not sure of. The rest, everything I knew, and there were pictures in it that I've seen a million times, and everything was kind of like the same as I thought that was going to be. And then there was one part that said that I had been found with antigenes of HIV, and
Hmm.
that was just something that I was very confused about, and that I had been hospitalized for that. So then I went to my adopted mom actually quite immediately with, this is something that I didn't know. And I wanted to be very open and see if she maybe never knew. And she also, I would say that my adopted parents, they really tried their best in every way, but they were also coming into this very naive. and very,
Gotcha.
very they really wanted me to be there. And by pushing that narrative of this is our child, they kind of forgot that I also am not. So I went very straight to her, and she kind of gave me the story that I thought that she was going to give, which was that they were very naive and that they also actually never truly sat down with those papers and went down with the dates and write them down and check if things were correct. And what I did was sit down, check dates, see if things align, and
Right.
kind of puzzle it out like that. And I kind of let it go. And I genuinely let it go for like, I think 2 years. I just let it sit, and I was just, okay, fine. I got my explanation I wanted. Nothing, I can nothing about it. I can do nothing about it. So I would say 2 years later, I had a conversation with my adopted dad about the same, but I had not told him the years before. That was just, it already just really went out of my mind. I had nothing. It was also COVID. There was so much on my mind that was just
there's a lot
crowding
going
that.
on.
So I just had a very, very random conversation with my adopted dad where I just told him, like, oh, I got my papers a while back, and this I found out. And I found out that they did know. But they were never, felt like there was never the time to tell me. And that it meant that if I was found with those anti-genes, it would have meant that my biological mom would have had HIV, which also connects to the chances of surviving that in that time in Ethiopia at that moment would have probably been very small, which does not mean that she's not alive anymore, but that just means that the story that I've always been telling myself is the chances are that they're still alive, the chances that the story itself just completely shifted.
I wasn't ready for that.
I know. I wasn't at the time either. That was.
I can only imagine because this is your story, and I feel like I've been gut punched. Like, what?
Yeah.
Are you curious to find any members of your family? Take a DNA test? And I know when you start to go outside of the country, things get a little dicey and a little more complicated, but is it your desire?
For a long time at that moment, I kind of written off my biological mom as passed away in my head.
Okay.
And that was just the way that I had to get through it, to get through having to forgive my adopted parents for what they've done, because it broke a part in our relationship of trust as well, to having to figure out my identity for my all over again for me, for myself. So that kind of took me on a journey.
Talk about that.
But
Can you talk about that journey?
it actually is the journey that I got to where I am right now. Whereas I have my podcast and I'm talking to adoptees, and I'm doing the work that I'm doing now, because at that moment I think I've never been as low in my life as that I have been at that moment. And I had to quit my job, find a new job, because everything was too heavy. I had to really rethink from the start who I was and what I found important and where I wanted to stand in my life. And within that journey, I knew I was not going to be able to do it alone. I knew that I needed help. I needed a therapist. I needed someone to talk to and talk about this. I was not able to figure this all out on my own. And what I did then in the Netherlands, when you want to see a therapist, and they will refer you to the correct therapist, to depending on what your issue is at the moment. And I came there with a very clear message, and that was, I have struggles with my adoption. I've been adopted, and I need to talk about it, and I need to figure out, this is my question. This is what I need help with.
And who did they send you to?
A regular therapist.
I asked the question for a reason, because they have got to stop doing that.
Yeah, so I went to...
That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole other podcast. Yes, indeed. Like, I went to a regular therapist. I went there for no, 7 or 8 months until I felt like this whole time I felt like something was wrong and something wasn't completely connecting between her and me, and
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I wasn't working on the right things, and every time I brought up my adoption in a way, I felt kind of my feelings being minimalized or diminished, and it was a very hard relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after 6 7 months, I I really felt like it was getting worse instead of it was getting better. And I just stopped, and I just messaged, I don't want to do this anymore. I think this is not helping me and it's not suiting my process. I need to find another way of seeking help. But within that process, I already had done a lot myself, and I had been already more adoption groups and more social media, and I had been figuring out basically things myself instead of what I thought that I was supposed to do with her, my therapist. And yeah, and then I just got from there. I went from there. I went from to listening to podcasts like this, and starting my own, and just really figuring it out in a complete different way than that I thought that I was gonna have to.
And let me
But
say, this. I don't know about where you're located, but I know here there is a network, and I will drop the link in the description of this video because I don't have it on the top of my head, that you can find a therapist and counselors that specialize in this area, and they are adoptees themselves. That's the key.
exactly.
That's the key
So
right there.
at that moment, because throughout my whole life, my adoption has always been something that is there, but not really on the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And I think adoption groups and more mental health support would have helped me figure out a lot that I went through alone. But I
Because, girl,
wasn't
you was in high
aware.
school right here trying to
Yeah.
figure stuff out. I'm still mind blown by that. Like, girl, what?
I think it would have helped me, but I was just not aware of it because no one handed me no one handed me a link, no one handed me any direction to
Right.
where to go to that, because it was just not something that was spoken of, and it was not something as I didn't need, I wasn't like I needed extra care. It was just I was a normal kid and then I was
Mm-hmm.
adopted, is an extra. So, and even when I went to the GP and I
Wait,
said,
wait, wait. I love how you said that because that's it right there. I'm a normal kid and I so happen to be adopted. The
yeah,
end.
and there's
Yeah, no.
no one's just taking a moment to think. I always look at it like this, like if you have a child with a disability or maybe on the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
they need extra help. They need
I love that analogy.
they need extra help with so many things. You kind of make your world and your environment around that, and that they need that extra care.
Because I think, especially maybe for people that are closer to my age, because I know I'm older than you,
Yeah.
but we're living in hindsight because nobody told us. But I can pinpoint things that I did and how I moved. And, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that was some adoption stuff I was dealing with.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, and then you just say, oh, this is how I am, and this is who, and it has absolutely nothing to do, at least for me personally,
Yeah.
nothing to do with how I was raised or any of that. Because I had a great child. I say it all the time. I was living my best life. You hear me? But I do know that there were some things that I
Yeah.
just dismissed, and it's like, okay,
That's just me.
it's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was dealing with some stuff,
Yeah.
and then there's nobody to talk to
No, and if no one
because
is picking up those little signals,
nope.
if no one is taught to pick up those signals and do something with that information, then we're going nowhere.
Mm-mm.
So when I went to my GP, even then, I had no idea that there was something as an adoption certified or someone who specialized with adoption.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it should be within the system that if I didn't come there with an open question to I'm feeling depressed or I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling this or that. I came with a very specific
Very
question and with a
specific
very
questions.
specific request. I am dealing with my adoption and I want help with that. And the fact that they were not able to meet that need and send me to a specific person, that's them failing me. And my therapist being able to feel that friction as well, because she cannot convince me that she didn't feel that friction either. Both
Because
were very having a hard time understanding each other.
you were in there cutting up, I know.
Yeah, she should have at that moment say, sorry, I feel like I am not able to help you right now.
Right.
I wish I could, but I can't.
Right.
I'm going to send you through this and this person
Absolutely.
that is able to help you. And
Absolutely.
no one did that. No one was able to do that. And I feel like that's within a system and within mental health system that is just failing.
So talk to me about Helen today. Where is she? Who is she today?
I'm in such a different place. I looking at myself right now, I can genuinely say I have been one of the proudest people towards myself. Is that I went over the self-hatreds. I do. It's very sweet you said that I was beautiful, but
Girl,
I
you're
do generally think
beautiful.
at this point
With
that
the beautiful curls and everything. Don't think I don't see the little spirals.
well, I I went through a lot of my self-hatred. I still have to work on certain things, but I'm able to recognize this and consciously work on it and being able to pinpoint, oh, this is a thought that I should not have. This is a negative thought. Let me replace it to something that's kinder and nicer towards myself or towards others.
I never dealt with that. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
22.
Girl, stop. You know what I
I'm
also wasn't doing at 22?
yeah.
This. Not at all.
Yeah.
None of this. The fact that you have the wherewithal at 22, you are way ahead of the game. Way ahead.
I guess
You are.
okay. Yeah, I'll take
You
it for
are.
that. I'll take your word for that.
Mhm.
I'm just very conscious of myself now, which helps me work on myself and helps me grow and helps me look at the world in a kinder and nicer way. And I am very motivated to whatever is in my mind to share that and be able to help other people with that and being able to even in the smallest way make a little change for others, because I generally feel like if I would have had platforms like this that helped me even when I was younger to just hear other people's experience, it would have made me feel less crazy or made me feel realize that something that I was feeling that I was normalizing was actually not normal and I should have sought help for that or talked to someone about that. I had no adoptees I just had no adoptees in general surrounding me. I think I only met adoptees when when I was really really young. My adopted parents went as a group to adopt from Ethiopia, but that contact like kind of just sizzled out. And after that, I just had no adoptees that were going through similar experiences until I seeked that out myself. So I feel like that if I could make anyone's life a little bit easier through that, through just being an adoptee, which is I'm already doing, then my work's done.
Girl, at 22. I wasn't doing any of this at 22.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about this. Well, like by 22, I had already tried to find my maternal side.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I tried, it didn't work.
Yeah.
I didn't find them until much later on. And so by 22, I'm just out here trying to figure out life.
Yeah.
So this piece of my life, it was way on the back burner. Like not even a thought.
It's
So
also, I think that because in a realistic way, this is where I'm at right now. And I'm 22, so I would say I'm quite young, yeah. And yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I would not speak too much about how it is to, for instance, find your biological family. Those are things that I can't talk about because I have not experienced that. And I'm at a point whereas I would do a DNA test,
Okay.
but I'm definitely not on the point whereas I would seek out and
Gotcha.
get through the process of that.
Yeah.
And there are adoptees, there are people that have already done that, and I will seek wisdom from them for
When it's time,
myself
when you're ready.
when I'm ready.
That's right. And
And I
only
feel
when
like
you're ready.
there are balances in that, whereas someone who's younger than me and is just needing someone who's like me that will seek wisdom from my side, and I will do the same. It's kind of a hierarchy in that because we're all going through different things and
Different things at different times, for sure. It's a
exactly.
process.
Yes.
I want to ask this last question because you are full of wisdom at your little 22-year-old self. If you had anything, what would be the thing that you would leave with transracial adoptees? Give them a word.
I say seek people that look like you. And I think that's just that's the only way you'll be able to truly love yourself and see yourself and the worth that you are in. If if you have people around you that look like you and that feel like you and that are giving you the space to explore yourself and see who you are, and that's sometimes really harsh to say, and especially if you have a lot of love for I think everyone has a lot of love for their adopted families, but sometimes it's very hard. For instance, when I have very good contact with them and I truly love them so much, but I cannot say that they can help me in this anyway. And I actually rather even have them stay out of it than actually being able to say something as, oh yeah, I understand what you're going through, or I can imagine what you're going through. You can. So you really have to take it up on yourself to seek that and to seek people that look like you, that feel like you, that sound like you, and give them a space in your life as well.
That's a mic drop. All of that. All of that. I want to thank you for coming and sharing your story. I always feel like whatever needs to be said within every conversation that I have, it's said somebody needs to hear your
Yeah.
conversation today. And that's why I, I just want you to come and just talk, and whichever way the conversation goes, that's where it goes. Shout out your adoption podcast.
Yeah. So you can find me on the Adoption Diaries. It's it's also an adoption podcast. I discuss everything from emotional, how you can feel, to certain traumas, to everything. To be honest, everything adoption wise, I talk about. So the Adoption Diaries.
And look, y'all, she sits on the camera. She's so cute every time. She just sits there. So please go check out her podcast as well. There are a lot of us out here in a community for you. Check us all out because there's something out here for everybody.
Exactly.
Period. So thanks again for coming on the show. I want you to hang on
Thank
for
you
one
for
quick
having
second.
me.
You're welcome. And on that note, bye, family.
Bye.
Journey on. So you need a pie with the good? Oh yeah, what is the one?